Now let's bring in now Liberal Senator Dave Sharma. Dave, also, of course, Australia's former ambassador to Israel. Welcome to the program. Look, we saw pro-Palestinian activists target and vandalise the US consulate in Sydney today. A sledgehammer was used. There's graffiti across the front of the consulate. I mean, let's bring up those pictures now. And this is just the latest incident. We also heard Ray Hadley on 2GB this morning report that red triangle that you can see there, that's apparently a symbol where something is a target of Hamas. Dave Sharma, what's your reaction to this really worrying attack?
Well, it's embarrassing, Sharri, because it's an attack on the diplomatic premises, which are meant to be, protected under international law of a close friend and ally. But it's also part of a climate of lawlessness and disorder that's been allowed to develop because of weak leadership by the state and federal governments. I mean, how is it that, outside of the US consulate, I expect there are closed-circuit television cameras, I expect there's security footage. When are the perpetrators of these crimes, vandalism, property damage, incitement, harassment, racial vilification, when is someone going to be arrested? When is someone going to be charged? When is someone going to be brought to justice for this? So we send a message that this sort of conduct is not acceptable. But what we've seen is this growing climate of anarchy in our streets where people who ostensibly say they're pro-Palestinian, more often than not they're pro-Hamas, seem to think that the laws that apply to the rest of society do not apply to them. And we've allowed this to develop. Our Prime Minister has allowed this to develop. Our Premier has allowed this to develop in New South Wales, and our police leadership is taking the lead from them.
Yeah, and they'd be forgiven for thinking that the laws don't apply to them because, as you say, we see very few arrests despite the level of vandalism, the aggression, not to mention the hate speech. And there are laws for hate speech. It would be good to see them used in relation to these sort of racist attacks. Dave Sharma, let's return to this news that there were 4 hostages rescued by Israel on Saturday night. What do you think about the fact that that 3 of them were held in the home of a Palestinian journalist who was reporting on human rights abuses? And do you think this is part of the reason why we're seeing such bias in media reporting?
Well, he's not only a journalist, Sharri, he's also a spokesperson for one of the Hamas-run ministries. So this is one of the quote-unquote official sources of information that foreign journalists use for, figures and facts. And it seems that this journalist and spokesperson for Hamas was holding the hostages. I mean, this is just, it shows you how deeply embedded Hamas is in society there, but also how you cannot trust a word that they're saying, whether it's about casualty figures or what was the cause of a particular incident or anything else. And look, firstly, I want to say, though, importantly, I'm so relieved that these hostages are home. There's still 120 being held there, and it's just a great joy to see them reunited with their family. But let's remember, these weren't freed or released by Hamas. They should have been. They should have been over 240 days ago. They should never have been taken hostage. They were liberated by Israel's military action. And all those people who are saying, well, let's have a ceasefire without any conditionality attached to it, they're effectively saying, let's leave the hostages there. This is the only thing that's liberating the hostages right now.
Exactly. It is the point I keep making. You can't have an immediate ceasefire while we still have innocent families, even a baby, held hostage. Now, I've criticised tonight the fact that Penny Wong hasn't publicly welcomed the news. Well, the Prime Minister did today finally welcome the news of the hostage release. Let's have a look.
I very much welcome hostages being reunited with their families. There should never have been hostages taken. The taking of these hostages and keeping them in captivity close to where there are so many Palestinian civilians is an atrocity, and it is one of the things that leads us to call Hamas a terrorist organisation, to actions of a terrorist organisation.
Dave Sharma, are you surprised our Foreign Minister couldn't say something similar, that she welcomes the release of the hostages?
Well, look, firstly, I welcome the comments by the Prime Minister, and I think they were right in substance and in tone. But I am surprised. I mean, Penny Wong is very quick on her keyboard to fire off a tweet or a post on X whenever anything happens in that region that concerns her on behalf of Israel, whether it's Israel's behaviour or Israel's alleged conduct or, an alleged civilian casualties from this conflict. But you would think, this is one of the biggest breakthroughs in this conflict over the last few months, and it's a time of great joy. I mean, Penny Wong, when she was in Israel, met some of the family members of the hostages who are being held. I would have thought the humane and decent thing to do, especially when we consider that Israel is one of our longest standing and firmest friends in the Middle East, would have been to at least welcome this news with a short statement, with a tweet, with something like that. But instead it's been left to the Prime Minister because, it's like Penny Wong has a hard time saying anything positive with Israel in the same sentence.
Yeah. And it did take the Prime Minister until today, when it happened Saturday night. They could have instantly put out a statement immediately on social media, like you said. Dave Sharma, thank you very much for your strength in this area and for coming on the program.